and she got killed. But that was our passageway from where we lived to the theater, to church, to the stores, the grocery stores, the clothing stores. And it was more or less a pleasure trip to walk across that bridge. And it was humorous to see some of the smaller children creep across because the planks had gaps, between them. And they'd look down and see that water, and it would frighten them. They think they were going to, how could they fall through a little crack like that? But anyway, and we heard about my brothers getting involved in several fist fights on that bridge, mostly with white boys. Uh, and I remember one particular fight that my younger brother had with, and this fellow lived in our neighborhood, but he made a pass at one of us. I don't know which one it was, but my brother gave him something to remember on that footbridge. And we laugh about it now.
Um, Tell me about, that was your community was a real community back then, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me
Oh,
about that.
yeah. And the people who lived in the Port Barrow area didn't necessarily consider themselves separate, except the bayou separated them from Donaldsonville proper. But it seemed that there was the feeling of many of the people in the Donaldsonville proper that they were separate and different from the people who lived in Port Barrow. It was sort of like a class distinction almost. You had both whites and blacks living on both sides. But the people in the Donaldsonville proper area seemed to have felt that they were more cultured, more socially aware than the people who lived on the other side in Port Barrow. And there were disputes among the two groups, but generally, people on each side knew each other, and there were relatives on each side. But most of the business places were located in the Donaldsonville proper area. In the Port Barrow area, we had corner groceries. That was as far as I can remember, those were the only types of business places, corner groceries.
So now, when you were a kid walking around your neighborhood, um, if somebody got in trouble, everybody knew about it.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, and every child who misbehaved, everybody in the community knew about that too. And sometimes the news got back to your parents before you did. But it was like one big family. It was people who were different then. They looked out for each other. In times of trouble, they came to each other's assistance. Sickness. I remember my mother had no nurse or medical training at all, but she delivered many babies in the community. She attended many of the sick people in the community. It was not uncommon for someone to come to the house, because we didn't have a telephone at that time, but for someone to come to the house at midnight and ask her to come to minister to someone. And it was all free of charge. She didn't expect to get paid. I don't know if she ever accepted any money from anybody, but as far as I know, she didn't. And only in dire cases of accidents or very serious illness was a doctor called in. People just couldn't afford to pay for the doctor. And we were fortunate because of the friendship between Dr. Laurie's daughter and my sister, that we were able to get medical services from Dr. Laurie. And I should think that many times that was gratis also. I think he did it out of friendship.
You said your sister learned how to play piano.
Out of friendship.
You said your sister learned how to play piano. I was talking to my uncle, and he said that one of because people didn't have TVs and a lot of them had radios, was that it was very common to have one of the girls in the family learn to play piano for entertainment.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Yes. Okay. Well, I guess you can consider my mother's family, a musical family, because my grandfather played the flute, which was uncommon in those days. Uh, my grandmother's brothers, two of them I know played in a band. Her brother, one of her, no, yes, two of her brothers. Uh, two of her daughters played the piano, and I don't know if they had music lessons or not, but one of them played very well. My sister took music lessons. She did pretty good, but of course my mother could not continue having her to have lessons. She couldn't afford to pay for the lessons. I, well, I can read. I read better than I play the piano, but I read music fairly well. My brother plays by ear. Let me tell you a strange, well, it's funny now, it wasn't funny then. But when my brother was a senior in high school, now I don't know if he was a senior, but when he was in high school, the music teacher eloped with one of the students from the school. This young man was one of the older students in school, and the music teacher was maybe 20, 21. And at that time, there were boys in high school who were, well, they were not boys, they were considered boys, but they were adult age. And this young man, I don't know if he had been in the service and had returned, but he was one of the older young men, and they fell in love, and they eloped the week before graduation. So there was no one to take care of the music, the choral music, nor for the graduation march. And the principal of the school he was tearing his hair out. He didn't know what to do. So this was told to us. One of the young men said, my brother went to the principal's office and told him, I can play for the graduation. And the principal thought he was ridiculous, He said, you can't. He said, yes, I can. He said, well, you'll have to prove it to me. Took him to the auditorium, and he played the music. So he played for the graduation, played for the chorus, and he played the graduation march. And my mother and father were so proud. They didn't know he could do it, but it was all by ear. It was not, he could read music a little, but he played it all by ear.
I bet they were proud.
Yes, they were. All of us were.
And surprised. Tell me about the True Friends Hall.
Mm-hmm. Well, the True Friends Hall was the place for social activities in Donaldsonville. I understand it was built by a benevolent association called the True Friends. And, of course, you know about benevolent associations. Are you familiar with those?
Tell me.
Okay, these were organizations of persons who pool their meager financial resources to assist each other and their families in times of need, in times of sickness, accident, whatever the need was, and even in times of death. And it also provided some medical assistance if members of the family were ill and needed medical attention. And so this was a two-story building. The Fruiters Hall was a two-story building. And the True Friends met in the upstairs, and they rented out the bottom floor for entertainment, for wedding receptions, for parties, private parties, and of course the dances. And people from Assumption Parish, St. James, Iberville Parish. I mean, it was a popular place.
And what, do you know anything about the True Friends? Or
No, they were kind of a secret group, as some of the benevolent groups were. But I don't know I doubt if they're any persons living now who were members of that group. There might be, because they stayed in association with each other for some years. I don't know how long, but
Tell me, did you go to college?
yes, I did.
Tell me about that. Where did you go?
Okay, I attended Southern University in Baton Rouge for my Bachelor's of Arts degree. And after a few years, I, um, I was able to obtain a government grant to attend a guidance institute at Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. And there I began my training for high school counseling. I went to LSU in Baton Rouge for some further training in counseling, but I've got my Master of Arts degree in counseling and guidance from Southern University in Baton Rouge before, well, during the course of my active teaching life.
And how much teaching did you do at?
I think I might have taught for about 11 years high school social studies, and then I became the guidance counselor at Laurie High School. At first I was half-time teaching, and then half-time doing counseling work. Then I became the full-time counselor, and then I became the assistant principal at Laurie High School. And in 1971, I think, no, 1970, the full integration of the school system took place, and I was transferred from Laurie High School to Downsonville High School as an assistant principal, and I retired from Downsonville High School.
I heard that at Laurie High School that there was that y'all used to perform opera.
Apparatus. Apparatus, yes.
Tell me about it.
There was this young music teacher. I think she was 19 years old when she began her teaching career at Laurie. And she had graduated from Xavier University in New Orleans. And of course, Xavier is known for its operas and operettas presented by the music department. And so she tried her hand at it and was very successful. I can remember two, well, one in which I appeared, which was HMS Pinafore, and another was the Mikado. Those two come to mind. My sisters and my brothers, for one time, were sort of at odds with each other because the music teacher selected those who were in high school to be in the operettas, but the parents had to provide the costumes. And of course, my parents couldn't provide. They were lucky to be able to provide one costume, let alone three. There were three of us in high school at the same time, and it was a battle as to which one was going to be the one to be selected, you know. But anyway, these operettas were, they were wonderful. They were wonderful.
This is when you were in school?
When I was in high school, yes.
Advanced.
Well, she was an extraordinary person. And I think there were some of the boys and the girls in the senior class who were the same age with her because she was only 19, I think, when she started. And she was excellent. She was excellent. I mean, some of the students we didn't know had any musical ability at all. She was able to train them and get them to perform. She did wonders. And of course, the community was behind her because she was so good. You know, she did such wonderful work. And I think some of the people in the community even helped along with the costuming and with the scenery and so forth. And that's another thing that was sort of an unspoken agreement between the community and the school. The people in the community, whether they had children enrolled in school or not, they rallied behind the school in presenting programs to the public, and even in whatever programs the school presented for the benefit of the students, the community people were really behind. And we had strong, they called it PTAs at that time, but PTOs, they had strong organizations. And all of the persons who were members were not necessarily persons who had children in the school. It was a wonderful type of interaction between the people of the community and the school.
What happened?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. Another thing that was a good, very good thing, and which attributed to the ability of teachers and people in education to discipline children without the law interfering, was the home visitations that teachers were required to do. This was a must. You had a homeroom class, then you had to visit each home at least once during the school year. And if problems arose with any of the children in your homeroom class, as many times as was necessary, the teacher had to make a home visit. But teachers don't visit homes anymore. Sometimes if a parent doesn't come to the school for some reason, teacher never gets to know the parent. And that's where a breakdown occurs. Parents don't know the teachers, teachers don't know the parents. But it was a good thing in my day, a good thing. Even the worst truant, if a teacher told you, I have to come to see your mother, oh, he or she was an angel for the rest of the day. And maybe for the rest of the week. But I thought that was a good thing. Of course, now I can understand now because of the breakdown in relations between and among people, it might not be a good thing for a parent to go into some homes. They may not be welcomed. We know about the tragedies that have happened when people go to homes and the persons who live in those homes are not so receptive. And it's a sad thing that there's this breakdown in relationships, you know. Many times a child goes through the whole year and a teacher doesn't, if the parent doesn't come to the school for some reason, teacher never gets to know that parent. And I say that that's not a good thing. That's not good at all. There should be a bond between parents and teachers, definitely.
There really are. That's a triangle. That's a team that has to work together.
Of course, of course.
My wife's a teacher.
Oh, she is?
Yeah, and we're doing an educational documentary on some of the best schools in America, but in the worst areas.
Mm-hmm.
And the question we asked is, why? Why does somebody who lives in this gang-filled, drug-ridden area, why can he have it? It's the teachers. It's like that 19-year-old music teacher.
Yeah. And she's still living.
And we don't pay him enough.
Well, that's a big reason. That's one of the main reasons. Yeah, I saw her at a state teachers meeting, retired teachers meeting in Baton Rouge sometimes last year, in the fall of last year.
What's your name?
What's her name? She was Osceola Chatters, but she married one of the teachers at the school who was a bit older than she was. His name was Jackson, so she's Osceola Chatters Jackson. Now, he's deceased now, but she's still living.
Good for her. Oh, they also told me that I should ask you about Mardi Gras.
Oh, okay. That was a highlight of the year. Well, when we were very small, our participation in Mardi Gras was limited. But as we grew, especially when we were teenagers, but it was a custom there was a carnival club, I think, in Downsville. It was composed of adults who sponsored a parade every carnival day, Mardi Gras day. And they dressed in elaborate costumes, and there was a parade. they selected a king and a queen, and the identity of the king and queen was kept secret until uh, I think the night before, because the queen rode in the parade on a float, and the king also rode on a float. But the people in the community also wore costumes to the parade. In fact, people went about the community all day dressed in costumes. There was, of course, my parents couldn't afford to buy costumes for children, but I had an aunt who sewed very well, and my grandmother sewed very well. And they made costumes for us from discarded clothing and whatever they could find to make costumes, they made costumes for us. And usually it was a storybook character. The costume was that of a storybook character, which was, I don't know if it mimicked the dress that the character wore, but we thought it did anyway. And there was a group of horseback riders who came from Smoke Bend. You know where Smoke Bend is? Okay, they came from Smoke Bend, and they, not purposefully, but they terrorized the children because they wore costumes also, and they wore masks, so you didn't know who was who. But the prancing of the horses, the kids were kind of afraid of that, you know, the small children. But anyway, they were friendly, and they went about the neighborhood, and they knocked on doors to greet people. They never did any harm, but just the idea, and then a big horse, you know, with a man in a costume appearing, and a small child not knowing who the man is. Well, anyway, that was kind of frightful for some children. But anyway, they participated in the parade also. And the parade, let's see, I think the route of the parade was from the True Friends Hall up Railroad Avenue, either Railroad Avenue or St. Patrick Street, one of those. Anyway, one of those streets all the way to the river, and then back to the True Friends Hall where a dance took place. And it was something that we looked forward to. And the first chance I got to observe Mardi Gras in New Orleans was my last chance. I didn't want to go back because in my aunt's neighborhood, the aunt that we visited, there was an Indian tribe. And their costumes were gorgeous. They were beautiful and elaborate, but that was too much for me. And of course, they mimicked the Indians, you know, what we were told that the Indians and what we read in books about Indians. Their wild dancing and, you know, that kind of thing. And that frightened me to death. I didn't want to go back. I think I went back when I was an adult, but not as a child. Just one Mardi Gras day was enough for me.
You scared of the Indians?
Yes, those Indians frightened me. They were. It was a beautiful sight, but frightening to me. Now I don't remember. I was a small child. I don't remember what age, but
How were you affected? Because there really were two. I mean, it was really segregated.
oh, definitely, definitely.
How? What was your perspective on that? I know what my perspective is, as because I'm from there.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know how I saw it as a kid.
Right,
But it was different because I'm young. I'm only 50.
right.
Okay. So how was it to you? What was it like to you?